Drew. Thanks so much for spending time with us today to share what commercial real estate is and some of the important considerations for small business owners that need to think about commercial real estate and why it's necessary for them, and how to be prepared for getting a space, whether it's a lease or buying something. So as we get started, I would like to lay the ground level and just ask, what is a commercial real estate agent and why are they necessary to begin with?
So a commercial real estate agent, commercial real estate broker, it is our job to find you the best place for you to operate your business. A lot different than finding a house where you have these needs and wants. Commercial real estate, we have to find the appropriate zoning, the appropriate use, appropriate type of building, the appropriate power, a good place with high visibility, high traffic. So there's so many more factors that go into it. And as commercial real estate agents, we know what those areas are. We know what to find and what to look for. And generally, we can help you make the best decision for your business, your portfolio, and eventually your bottom line.
That's good. Thank you for that. How did you get involved yourself in commercial real estate?
I love real estate and I love business, and the two married together perfectly. Commercial real estate is the intersection of business and real estate. So everything we do works off of a spreadsheet, works off of a pro forma, and if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense, and that's why I love it. And I'm an entrepreneur. I love commercial real estate, I love businesses, so commercial real estate's a great fit. It allows me to be in different businesses every single day. I mean, we work with churches, residential, industrial, commercial, car washes, storage units. It doesn't really matter. We get to be involved in all of that all the time. And as an entrepreneur, that's what drives me.
What is it for you? Like, what is your why when it comes to commercial real estate? Like, why does it get you out of bed in the morning?
I don't feel like I work. Like I said, I love business and I love real estate. So it's where they marry each other, and I think I have the best job in the world because I get to help people's dreams come true. I get to see a lifelong people that have been in the same building, working out of their garage for 20 years, and is ready to take that step, and now they're fulfilling their dream of having this location, expanding, taking on new products, adding employees. And I get to help them fulfill their dreams and at the same time help build this community. And that's why I do it.
That's good. I appreciate that. Why is it important to have you walk alongside a small business owner when they want to get a property or lease?
It's important to find somebody that's going to represent you in the transaction, because if you are going to lease a building or buy a building, whoever is representing the owner of that building only has their best interest at heart. It is their job to get the owner of that building as much money as possible. It's important to have somebody representing you because it's their job to get you the best deal as a business. We know what it's going to take for this to work for your business. So it's our job to get you a place in a location that works for you and your business, and eventually affects your bottom line.
So Drew, you're not a lawyer, but you see contracts all the time. What's a really important thing that a small business owner needs to do before they sign a lease?
You need to fully understand every aspect of your lease. There's a lot of provisions in 99% of leases as far as insurance. Well, you need to understand how much insurance you're going to have to carry to release the landlord. You need to understand the term. You need to understand the escalations. You need to understand if we're going to have any build out done by the landlord, what that implies and how that works. So there's a lot of different aspects of a lease that you, the landlord, and the business owner need to understand, because it ultimately affects your business at the end of the day. If I like to describe it as we have 3 dials to turn. You have your term, your price, and your build out. And we can turn all these dials in one way, shape, or form in order to make the deal work perfectly for you, the business owner. And that's what we need to do, and that's what we negotiate for as a commercial broker.
Okay, excellent. And then one last question on why it matters to have a commercial real estate. People are going to be asking, well, what does it cost? It's a lot of service that you're providing. It's really valuable. How do do you get paid?
So we get paid, everything comes from the landlord side. So to a business owner, it doesn't cost them anything. Generally speaking, if you are going to lease a building for 3 years, and your payment is going to be $1,500 a month, let's say, you're going to come into a lease with your $1,500 for your first month, and then a security deposit usually equal to around $1,500. And that is what all it generally will take to start a lease. Now, if your agent did good for you and negotiated some free rent in there or whatever, you may not have a payment for a couple months before those $1,500 a month payments start again. When you go in to buy a building, generally your payment or your down payment will be somewhere around 20%. So if you are buying a $300,000 building, you will have $60,000 that you will need down. There's other programs and grants that you can use to negotiate that or have that lower, but generally speaking, that's a good rule of thumb.
So from a planning and strategic point for a business owner, and let's just start off with the different kind of commercial spaces that are available for business. Help us understand what's in the marketplace.
So if you are a retail business, if you are selling products to a customer, you need a retail space. Generally, that looks like a strip mall, occasionally a standalone building, but you're looking for a space that will accommodate high foot traffic, high just traffic in general, good exposure, things like that. So that's your retail space. Now, if you are in manufacturing, construction, things like that, you will need an industrial space. Those have different rules, and those will be in industrial areas. So we may need to focus on more zoning or close to an area that has your employees want to work in, so they don't have to drive so far. And then you also have, your massage therapists, your medical offices, your areas that you need more office space, which we may be looking at an office park or just a standalone building office someplace where you do get some good exposure. So there's all different kinds of real estate that are affected by all different kinds of business. A restaurant is going to want a completely different area than a nail salon. So we need to understand that, and we need to focus on, first off, where the city or the township or the county will allow that business to go in. Second of all, what kind of exposure do we want? And third, what kind of price point do we want to be at?
Okay, that's excellent. And then you touched on this already, but could you help us understand what kind of money needs to be set aside to begin with? How much capital a business needs in order to get into a space, whether they're buying or whether they're leasing?
So for a lease, a general rule of thumb is your first month's rent plus your security deposit, usually equal to your first month's rent. So if you are renting a retail space, your payment is $1,500 a month. You'll have another $1,500 down payment, or your security deposit, so you'll have to come up with $3,000 in order to get the space. If you are purchasing a building, roughly you'll need around 20% down. That can fluctuate depending on different bank programs, but generally around 20% down. So if you're buying a $200,000 building, you'll need $40,000 down in order to buy that building to work with a bank.
And you need some tax returns to buy a building. Do you need tax returns to lease a space?
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. So if you're going to buy, a bank is going to want to see a few years of tax returns, good income, consistent income. If you are a new business, there's many times that a landlord will want to see a financial disclosure statement or a couple months of income statements or a tax return to make sure that you are able to pay your lease payment every month. Other times, if you've been around for a little bit and they know you may just be able to walk into a building and just sign a lease and be good. With leases, they also have personal guarantees sometimes. So what that means is if you don't pay or the business doesn't pay, you personally are going to be liable for the payment. So that just know that could come up in a lease situation, and that tends to happen a little bit more on new businesses that haven't been around for 2 to 3 years or so.
And then something that we've talked about that I thought was really intriguing is that just a way to look at your commercial space. And you said to me, treat your space as an asset and not a liability. Can you help us understand what that means and then why it's important?
So love teaching people that your commercial real estate is an asset to be leveraged rather than a cost to be managed. So what that means is instead of looking at your real estate as a cost, look at it as an opportunity. So if we're looking for a retail space and we have a budget of, let's just say $1,000. So we're looking for a retail space. We found a space that's $1,000, but it doesn't have that good of exposure. Well, we need to look at, well, how much more am I spending in marketing to get people to that location rather than having a space that we say we budgeted $1,500 for that had good exposure? Well, would you rather have to spend all that money on mailers, Facebook, Instagram, digital media to get people to that location, or would you rather just spend the extra little bit of money or $500 on a better location that you get more traffic, you can put a nice sign out front, and people are going to be walking in the door? I personally believe it's better to have a location with more exposure rather than have to spend all that money in marketing in order to have it. So we want to, like I said, treat it like a asset to be leveraged rather than a cost to be managed. Now, we're not always looking for the cheapest space. We're looking at the best space for the business.
So sometimes it makes much more sense to spend a few extra $100 a month because that location is going to be very visible versus a cheaper space where you're going to have to spend a ton of money just to get people to show up and find it.
Absolutely. So like that, and that's just a retail option, right? But it could be you want to be closer to your target market, right? So if instead of being in Kentwood, you need to be in Cascade. Well, the rent is a little bit higher in Cascade, but you're not trying to pull people all the way from Cascade to get there. They can drive within a couple minutes of their house rather than 20 minutes to Kentwood. So there's a lot of different ways that we need to look at it to make sure that it's the best location for the business across the board. Now, that doesn't always apply in some industrial settings right off the board or right off the bat, but you can also look at it as there's some really good tax programs where you can get your property taxes abated, so you don't have to pay property taxes in certain areas with certain businesses. So maybe you might have to drive an extra 20 minutes, but you're saving a bunch of money on property taxes. Well, then it might be worth it. So it's an asset to be leveraged rather than a cost to be managed that we need to, and that's why you hire a commercial broker or real estate agent to find you the best place for your specific business.
That's excellent. Drew, every business needs to be profitable and every business needs to have money left over at the end of the day. When you think about a space to rent or to own, what are your thoughts when it comes to the bottom line for a business?
Well, you're only going to do it if it makes money, right? If it makes money, it makes sense. So a lot of times people say, well, I need this space. Well, they don't need the space. They just want the space. So if it doesn't help your bottom line out, and it may take 3 months, a year, in order for you to see that return on your investment into this location. But at the end of the day, if you know that this is the right location for your business, or maybe it's not the right a right idea or right time for you to move your business out of your garage, eventually it has to affect the bottom line in a positive way. If it's a loss, then we shouldn't do it.
Excellent. That's really good. I like that better. And so you touched on this with proximity to your target market, saying that we need to be in the right space for our customers, maybe the employees. Tell to us about the marketing aspect. As a real estate agent, what are you thinking about when it comes to marketing?
It all depends on the business. Generally speaking, working with a lot of retail people, if you are looking for a location to sell a product, we need to know who your target market is and where's the best place to get you the most amount of exposure. Just driving by a sign on the road at the end of the day is the number one advertising tool you can give somebody, especially if you are close to your target market and they're driving by it every day to and from their way home from work. If you need 6 touches for somebody to remember your name or your product, well, let's put you in a place where you can get those 6 touches in a week, or they can see that, see those signs, see those logos. So from a marketing aspect, your location is a big deal. If you look at the buildings downtown, right? You can see the names on the side of the buildings. Well, they paid for those signs, and are paying a high dollar figure for that real estate in order to have that sign up on the side of that building. So, you know, these companies that are spending millions of dollars on that marketing and that location, we can do the same thing with you and your restaurant, your clothing store. We can put you in a location to give you the most exposure, to get you the most amount of sales.
So Drew, thank you for all this information. I think it really helped us understand what is important about the commercial real estate industry and the things to think about when getting a commercial space. You know, someone can pick up the phone or they can just send an email. What should they expect when they want to engage with a commercial real estate agent?
So it's very easy to get a hold of somebody in commercial real estate, whether it's myself or somebody else. Pick up the phone, send an email, whether it's me or I help you find somebody else, very easy to do. The first thing we're going to want to know is, what is your business? What are you looking for? What is your budget? And in some cases, what are your finances like when it comes to leasing a space? Because we know that there could be questions come up from a landlord that wants to know what your finances look like. If you can give us the more information that you can provide us, the more we are able to help you. So if you can give us, you know, your budget, like I said, you know, your target demographics, you know, do you want high traffic? Are you more budget focused than location focused? The more details that you can provide us, the better that we can help you find the best location for your business. And, you know, if you find a sign alongside the road that you say, hey, this is the location I want, call them and ask them and say, this is what I'm looking for. Would this work? Or, you know, could you help me find something different?
Drew, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. And if somebody is interested in finding a space, how do they get a hold of you, or how do they find a commercial real estate agent? What's the best thing to do next?
It's easy to get a hold of me. You can go on my website, just drewborn.com, or ReMaxCRE.com, or send a text phone call to Paul or anyone on the SpringGR team. They all have my contact information as well. And my email is drew@drewborn.com. Very easy.